Alright, there's Twitch. Now can we see YouTube? Can we see both channels live at the same time, maybe? Come on. There we go. We've got Twitch live. We've got YouTube live. And anybody who's watching the VOD is confused. Restream's not great at getting them both up at the same time. I don't know. Anyways, hello everybody. My name is Serv, and welcome. Today there's some exciting shit happening. And I've been cooking. I've been cooking for the past few hours, and I've got something to share with the class. So, if you are a fan of Guild Wars, you have no doubt seen over the past few weeks, or couple weeks, as ArenaNet has been posting teasers over on their Twitter accounts, comprised of the icons for the new elite specializations in the new Guild Wars 2 expansion, which was revealed today as Visions of Eternity. And in that trailer, we got to see which class this icon corresponds to, which was, of course, the Elementalist. A lot of people had a lot of thoughts about this specific icon. I didn't think it was Elementalist, and I am an Ellie main. And so I'm going to go over a lot of the ideas I had, and hopefully I can get some feedback from you guys. The first thing I want to say is I believe there's a lot going on beneath the surface here that is being very vaguely hinted at. And if any of what I'm saying is correct, and I could just be completely going just off the fence here, I think we're in for something exciting with Elementalist. So, let's begin with the icon. So, obviously, you look at this icon, it looks like a fox. A lot of people looked at this, they said it was a firefox. And that was definitely the first thing I got when I looked at this. I was like, oh shit, we're getting like a firefox pet. Because it, looks cute little fox head. It's got embers coming off of it, so it's very clearly made out of fire. It almost looks like a mask, but I mean, clearly it wasn't. I think maybe because the eye kind of looks like it's got a little slit there, that you could maybe see as just being like a part of the mask, but it looks like it's just flames coming from the eye or something. Now, I didn't think this was for Elementalist because it is explicitly expressing the element of fire. And while the core Elementalist icon is literally just a fireball, the rest of the elite specializations seem to make an effort not to reference one specific element, because then you're kind of leaving out the other ones. But maybe there's some merit to why they did that, and why they've done it here again, choosing to represent Elementalist through a... I mean, the fox head even kind of looks like a flame. Like, it looks like it's shaped like a little tiny candlelight, maybe. Right? So, maybe the reason they originally, when they were making the Elementalist icon, chose to make it just a fireball is because you can't really aptly represent all four elements through one icon, or at least maybe the designers felt they couldn't, so they chose to just do the fireball. And with this new elite specialization for Elementalist, I'm theorizing that the reason they're showing off the Firefox, this song is not what I want right now, but the reason they're showing off the Firefox is because showing off the other the other attunements in the same icon just simply wouldn't make any sense. That's my theory. So let's actually go and look at what they gave us in the trailer. Take a peek at the Elementalist itself. So here we've got what I believe is Elementalist, Mesmer, and Engineer. Ellie and Mesmer do get confirmed within this trailer, but I'm not sure if that's Engineer. I don't know what else it could be, because it's got a rifle. We know every other class in the game with a rifle is taken. Unless we're getting, like, free access to rifles for thieves who don't own whatever expansion gives out Deadeye, I'm pretty sure this is just Engineer. But anyways, we can see right here in the corner, we've got our little fox friend. And let's... should I full screen this? Yeah, sure, why not? So we'll let it play. And I'm going to go here, skipping frame by frame, because I wasn't sure if this was actually Ellie at first. Obviously, they're wearing the Elementalist, or the Elonian Elementalist top. So it seems like it is, and I think I actually already went past it. It's very hard to catch. Yeah, this frame right here, actually. You can't see, she does have the little ring around her wrist, so it is undeniably an Elementalist, and she's attuned to fire. So, We attune to fire, we get this firefox. This means that either we're just getting a firefox in every single attunement, or this is only the companion for fire, and we have other companions when we're in the other attunements. It could be that the fox changes to be a water fox, an air fox, or, whatever. But I don't think that's the case. And that is what has fueled this schizophrenic theory of mine, okay? I've done a lot of research about this theory, more than I should have. So, when we look at the icon again, the icon very clearly depicts fire. The fox head is shaped kind of like a flame, there's embers coming off of it, and we look at this, it's the firefox. So if this firefox, when we swapped to, say, the water attunement, just turned into a blue fox, wouldn't it make more sense for the icon to just be the outline of a fox head, and not a fox shaped like a flame, with embers on its ears? I think the reason that they did this is because they simply couldn't put all of the attunements into one icon and just committed to fire the same way the core version of the class works. So, if you get where I'm going here, I have some theories on what other creatures we might get for this new specialization, as well as why it's covered in these runes. But first and foremost, if I'm correct, if I am even remotely accurate on the idea that we're going to get multiple pets, we should probably start with why this is a fox. And before we start with why this is a fox, I need to change the goddamn song, because having this on shuffle is just not a good idea. Look, I love Hideki Naganuma, but I feel like this maybe doesn't fit. It's a little bit disruptive. Can I get like some She music in here? Do we got some of that? Yeah, that'll do. That'll do. Actually, no. This'll do. There we go. Alright. So, why Firefox? That is our first question. What would compel the lovely people over at ArenaNet to do a Firefox? Well, my theory was the exact same reason Mozilla chose to do a Firefox. When I saw this thing, immediately I watched the trailer and I said aloud in my initial reaction, oh my gosh, Tuliketu. What the fuck is a Tuliketu? Well, I'll show you. So, Mozilla Firefox, and basically every other video game with a Firefox in it, is inspired by this thing. This is called the Tuliketu. It is a Finnish mythological creature. It's basically just a fox, but the idea is that the Aurora Borealis comes from its tail, and its tail emits a flame. It's probably the result of people seeing, like, snow reflecting off of the tail of the fox or something, and thinking that the tail was on fire, and thus that flame was streaming through the sky as the Aurora Borealis. But it sparked things like Mozilla Firefox, like there's Pokemon, Pal World creatures based off of it. Tons of things. I think Core Keeper even has a pet based on it. Tons of things are inspired by the Firefox. This is kind of what paired foxes and fire in basically all media, right? We've got a little Wikipedia article on it. The Firefox, or the Tuliketu, is a mythical creature in folklore of northern and eastern Finland. It is a fox whose tail twinkles fire. Alright, that checks out. That's the Tuliketu. Right there. Yep, that's him. Except there's a little issue here. There's a little something covering the fox that is not exactly Finnish, and that is what's confused me. But before I get really deep into that, because it's a whole ass rabbit hole, I want to go on to another point entirely, and that is the other potential creatures I think we could get for the other attunements. So, if the designers chose to give the fire attunement a companion based on the Tuliketu, what else would they choose? And I've got a few ideas. First, we're going to go over the air attunement, because I personally think this is like the most likely one. Out of every possible creature, I am willing to place a pretty sizable bet on the Elementalist getting this thing. This image is way too small. But this is the Thunderbird of Native American lore. So, the USA, before the Christians came in and killed everybody, They believe that there was a giant fuck-off bird in the sky that would bring with it storms and lightning, and it was basically the source of rain. So they revered it, you know? Big-ass bird. He comes in, he brings lightning, he brings harsh winds, darkness. Fucking terrifying. But he also brings rain. And rain feeds the land feeds the crops, then we get to, you know, live. So the people were quite fond of the Thunderbird. And the Thunderbird, probably as a result of just how important it was to their cultures, has become a pretty big fantasy icon as well. It's undeniably the most popular piece of Native American folklore. Everyone knows the Thunderbird. So, if we're going for just the most iconic creature that relates to each element that isn't based on Asian mythology, because we already did that with Catalyst. Remember, this isn't the first time that Elementalist has had mythical creatures supporting its elements. I'm willing to place a bet on Elementalist getting the Thunderbird represented probably by a little purple eagle. More likely than not. I would say we're going to get a Firefox for the fire attunement, and then if we swap to air, I think this thing is going to get replaced by a purple eagle representing the Thunderbird of Native American lore. And I did actually look at a few other examples, such as this fucking thing for the water attunement. It's goddamn terrifying. And you might be wondering, what the fuck is this, and why would the water attunement have it? Well, this is the, what is it, the Dobar Chew. There we go. It is also called the Water Hound. It's just a giant otter, and it's horrifying. It's described as being the enemy of all, which is a pretty fucking ballsy thing to call an otter. They're said to just be horse-sized otters that dwell in lakes, and then they come out and murder anything nearby, and if you happen to kill one, its mate will then hunt you down and seek revenge. They're terrifying. But they were also the most popular example I could find of just a creature associated with water that isn't a horse. Because we got the Firefox, insanely popular. We've got the Thunderbird, insanely popular. What represents the element of water? Kelpies, or Selkies, right? The water horses, except Catalyst, the other elementalist specialization that summons mythical creatures, already has a Kirin. So we've already got a water horse in another specialization of the same class. So I feel like I have to write off the horses entirely. Plus, the fox is pretty small. He's a little guy. If you want to do the Thunderbird, you can represent it through a normal-sized eagle, also pretty small. Having a giant horse, or a shrunk-down tiny flying horse? That does not sound right to me. So I went to the Dobar Chew, a terrifying otter, and this had me start looking at more otter lore to see if maybe an otter makes sense here? I love otters. I didn't want to, let myself get biased, but I found a lot of stories, especially in Celtic lore, tying otters to being benevolent healers, actually, which absolutely perfectly ties it to the water element on the Elementalist, as it is the healer spec. I did have a story here, but I can't find... here we go. In Celtic and other folklore, the otter is often characterized as a friendly and helpful creature, and is given the name water dog, which is what this thing is called. Alluding to these qualities, in the Irish story The Voyage of Maelduin, otters on the island of Otter, yes, it's called the Island of Otter, bring the sailors salmon to eat, and The Voyage of Brendan tells of how an otter performed the service for a hermit, even collecting firewood for him. St. Cuthbert is the patron saint of otters, and after standing waist-deep in the North Sea during his nightly prayer vigils, 2 otters would come and warm his feet with their breath and dry him with their fur. So, for as horrifying as this fucking thing is, we do have other folklore that is tying the water dogs to being benevolent and sweet and basically just normal otters. And because there's just so much otter mythos, dude. Because I already had some Native American inspiration here that I found for the Thunderbird, water dogs are in Native American folklore as well. They guard rivers. I'm pretty sure they just make sure the river keeps running. Rivers are important for all things that, live near them. So I feel like there's a lot going on here to support the idea that pairing with this little guy, we could get a little blue otter companion. I fucking love that, seeing as how, I don't know if you can see in the top of my screen there, my character is actually named Otter Mage, so, I don't know, man, maybe I'm biased, but also, there's a lot supporting mythological otters. Then came the Earth Attunement, and this is where things kind of got stupid, because I'm gonna be real. There's fucking nothing for earth or stone creatures that aren't like elephants and other massive like boars and such. And seeing as how every other animal I could reasonably find was quite small, I don't imagine the earth spec is just going to be something utterly massive. So this is what we have. Yes. The turtle with the entire planet on its back. Now, hear me out. We do have a tortoise for the catalyst, and I did say a horse for water twice over was stupid. This is a turtle, not a tortoise. That is my entire argument for it. Now, I did find a much better creature, but I felt like I should mention the turtle anyways, because it's the world turtle, man. How are you gonna have the firefox, the thunderbird, and not the world turtle? I don't know. But, badgers. This was the other one I could find. Badgers would fit the same kind of idea as the other animals that we've got listed here. They're small, they're kind of cute. If you tried to make like a transparent one that was vaguely brown and green colored, it would look great. And here we've got this romanbritain.co.uk, the Celtic life, Celtic religion, blah blah blah. It's a mythos page talking about how different animals are described in Celtic folklore. And there's a reason we keep going back to Celtic folklore. So, we've got the badger, which was translated to Brock. This animal is unyielding in the face of danger and is noted for its tenacity and courage. In the Welsh tale of Pwll's courting of Rhiannon, a badger is mentioned as a guide during dreaming, which a lot of stories I found mention that badgers would just appear in your dreams and, like, guide you. The badger will teach you to fight for your rights and defend your spiritual ideas. These creatures are described as one of two things in all mythos I can find. This is like the nicest way I have ever seen anything talk about a badger in regards to mythology. Because every other webpage I could find, every other story I could find, described badgers as being horrifying shapeshifters who would just do the most fucked up things they've... You know the Pokemon Typhlosion story? That is based on, like, typical badger folklore. However, the one, like, kind of defense I can give to the badgers here is that is Asian folklore. And I would be willing to bet that we're trying to avoid Asian folklore because Catalyst is already entirely Asian folklore, and it might make things feel a bit too samey. That's another point here. That firefox is definitely not a kitsune. I forgot to mention that. I'm confident... Oops, bumped the mic. I'm confident that the firefox has nothing to do with the Japanese kitsune. Confident, but I'll tell you why later. So, I'm going to go ahead and say that even though most other nations' mythos and folklore, especially Asian folklore, describe badgers as transforming into attractive young women to then lure people in and murder them, or just transform into other things, basically turning into a giant asshole, literally in one case. It's not a great rep for the badgers, and it definitely doesn't really sound like something you would attribute to a creature who would be tied to the Earth Attunement. But I mean, it's that or like turtles. So, because evidently there's a few stories where badgers are said to save people and defend people, we're going to go ahead and chalk that down. Hey there, Fenris, welcome to chat. We're going over some ideas I've had based on some folklore and the most recent Elementalist reveal in the new Guild Wars trailer. Hey there, Jess. So, let's go back over this page here. So we've got the Firefox, and we've got some ideas here that the Firefox is the Fire Attunement companion. And realistically, if this is the Firefox based on the Tulikitu, which is the... where do I have it? Here we go. The fox that Mozilla Firefox is named after. If you're unfamiliar with this mythos, it's a Finnish story wherein some foxes, special foxes, would have fire emitting from their tail. And that fire would go up into the sky, and that is what the Northern Lights were. The Northern Lights were like the residual flames of the Tulikittu, which are these foxes. So my theory is this thing is based on Tulikittu. And if this thing is based on Tulikittu, it wouldn't make sense for the elementalist to change attunements to, say, water, and for the fox to turn into a water fox. Especially since the icon very much looks like a fox made out of fire. It's kind of shaped like a little flame, it's got embers coming off of it. I feel like it would look more neutral if it could just go to any element. So, my idea here is, if I can find it, this horrifying abomination, which is called the, I forget his name again, the Dobhar Chew, there we go, or the Water Dog, the Water Hound. It is just a giant evil otter, and it is probably the most popular example I could find of a creature that was as tightly tied to water as the fox is to fire. Now, fortunately, we did find some other stories. I read them earlier, but I can pull them up again, that expressed that while this does popularize the otter as a closely tied mythical water creature, we do actually have, quote, in Celtic and other folklore, the otter is often characterized as a friendly and helpful creature. It's given the name water dog, just like this horrifying thing, which, by the way, this one's supposed to be the size of a horse. Alluding to these qualities, in the Irish story The Voyage for Maelduin, otters on the island of Otter, yes, otters on the island of Otter, bring the sailors salmon to eat, and The Voyage of Brendan tells of how an otter performed this service for a hermit, even collecting firewood for him. Saint Cuthbert, is a patron saint of otters, and after standing waist-deep in the North Sea during his nightly prayer vigils, 2 otters would come and warm his feet with their breath and dry them with their fur. So, if nothing else, that story is a tale of redemption for the otters. It makes them sound benevolent and altruistic, and that ties in perfectly with the water attunement for the elementalist. We need something that is a healer, not something that, where is he? That is said to be the enemy of all, which, yes, that is a direct quote. This giant otter is cited as the enemy of all. Don't fuck with him, I guess. Then, for the air attunement, well, how can we go anywhere other than the Thunderbird? Air, of course, in the context of Guild Wars, is not just wind, but it's lightning. And a creature just as iconic with fire and, you know, a fox, we've got the Thunderbird of Native American lore. This is a bird who the native indigenous people to the US, you know, before the Christians kind of murdered everybody, this bird was thought to be the source of rain and lightning and storms. The people revered it for bringing in the rain, but also were kind of scared of it because it's a giant fucking bird that, you know, brings lightning with it. Then we've got the badgers, as I was talking about, and I believe these are what the 4 attunements are going to be when we swap between them. I think this will be a permanent creature. Press your different attunement, you'll get this different creature. But there's one thing that's had me hung up the entire time that doesn't make any fucking sense. And when I found this out, it changed the whole thing for me and sent me down a completely new rabbit hole. So, I originally said that this is the Tulikittu. But it has what appears to be Celtic knotworks on it. You can see it all over its body. And it definitely checks out. Looks exactly like actual historical Celtic knotworks. But that doesn't make any sense. Because if that's Celtic knotwork, then how is this the Tulikittu? Because the Tulikittu is not Celtic, it's not Celtic at all, he's Finnish. So why would ArenaNet take a Finnish mythos and then cover it in Celtic knotwork? Well, I decided to take a few steps back, because while I love the Tulikittu myth, I was confident about it. I appreciate it. What are we talking about? Well, Riley, the Guild Wars 2 Visions of Eternity trailer came out. We've shown off that the Elementalist is going to get this Firefox companion, and I'm theorizing there might be a little bit more going on behind the curtain than just a Firefox. And so, as it's covered in all of these weird little pieces of knotwork, that would tie it to Celtic lore, not the Finnish Tulikittu. So what the hell is it? This is where shit gets weird and it gets confusing, but it is so incredibly cool. So I learned just tonight about something called Satyr. That is pronounced Satyr. It's very strange. But it was, well, as you've got right here, a type of magic which was practiced in Norse society, and it was pre-Christianity. And so this was believed to be a type of magic wherein people would be able to look at the path of somebody's life, basically like divining their future. That kind, almost like the tarot card kind of deal, but it was much more spiritual, it was much more of a communal thing. Honestly, as I'm reading here, it seems like they kind of treated the sorcerers who practiced this in the same way that like Christian priests were treated. And this on its own doesn't make a whole lot of sense. How does that relate to this dog, and how does that justify this dog's existence? Well, the Folgia. The Folgia is a ghost who associates with, or for lack of a better word, stalks or shadows a particular individual, and may be characterized as a guardian spirit. However, contrary to its name meaning follower, it generally moves ahead of its host, making a kind of contact with the person before they arrive at some key spot. The Folgia will, however, follow a person when they are near death. So the satyrs and the Folgia are both pieces of the same mythology, but they didn't directly overlap. You see, people ideally couldn't see their own Folgia, but everybody had one. The idea is it was like an animal whose traits reflected yours, and from the moment of your birth, it would come into existence and shadow you. You wouldn't be able to see it because it was a spirit, but some people could. Typically, if they could see their spirit, their Folgia, it meant they were about to die. Because this creature would lead them in their life oftentimes before a big moment happens, and that kind of climaxes with leading you on to your final moment. But, the satyr is expressed to bring about these trances through, like, specific rhythms and rituals and such, with big groups of people even. They set themselves into a spiritual trance wherein they are said to be able to see spirits that are described, though not explicitly stated to be, very similar to the Folgia. So the idea here is that the reason that this thing, clearly based on Tuleketsu, a Finnish creature, is covered in Celtic knots, almost like runes binding it, is because this is based on the lore of the Folgia. And the Elementalist in the new expansion, that is the engineer. The Elementalist in the new expansion is based on the satyr. The idea is that each attunement is like we're swapping between our lives. Because, you get one creature, one Folgia, based on your attributes, your affinities, just like you, and it follows you your whole life. But the Elementalist is 4 different attributes that are wildly different. You've got the wild, just blind rage of the fire attunement. You've got, where is he? There he is. You've got the compassionate, altruistic side of water, the tenacious defender that is earth. These are all very, very different traits. And so maybe the idea is the Elementalist is swapping through these different attunements, like going into a different trance, which is letting them see the Folgia attributed to that side of who they are. And so my theory here is we're going to have all of these creatures from different parts of mythology, different folklore, and all of them are going to have these little bands on them that tie them back to the Celtic lore of the satyr and the Folgia, but allowing us to do things like tying in Native American lore, or, well, I guess this is technically Native American lore, but it's also Celtic, but it's a bunch of things. And so, in about a week, they're going to tell us a little bit more about how all of these attunements work, and that is what I'm going to be finding out if this is in fact, as the title says, schizophrenic ranting about a fox, or if we are actually getting a new attunement based on kind of satyrs, kind of Folga. They're also translated as being seers, like a shaman, basically. A shamanist elementalist is what I've got out of this. Now, there was another thing. I've lost it, and I have it cropped, but I have like probably 15 tabs open. Somewhere in here, I have another page that was talking about something called a fetch, which is kind of a modern version of the Folgia. Now, I might have it linked in one of my notes here. Let's see if we can pull it up, because it did give us a nice little bit of context that did tie the package together a little better. I think this is it. Yes, this might be it. Let's see. Is this the one? I think it is. Yes, this looks like it. Let's see. There are fetch in the British witchcraft tradition is an animal spirit, or is it an animal spirit or living animal that would allow its owner to travel with it or send it on errands for magical workings in spirit travel. Now, these are kind of believed to be like a more modernized version of the Folgia, so it's possible that ArenaNet was looking at this similar concept. It is more common for us to see the witch's fetch depicted as a familiar, which, I mean, this definitely fits all of the rules or traits that you might find in a fantasy familiar. So this completely checks out. And where was I? I've actually lost myself entirely. Familiar. Oh god, there's many words. Here we go. A physical animal that aids the practitioner in her works. Many folk tales describe how these animals might also be the witch transformed, and physical injuries suffered by the animal match those of the witch once she's restored to human form. Maybe this could indicate that we're going to get some shapeshifter stuff like Soul Beast, or maybe this is just an extra little stretch. Because like I said, the fetch is described as being a more modernized, more like last like 200 or 300 years, but still, that's closer to modern than pre-Christianity version of the Folgia. In modern reconstructed heathen spirituality, a Folgia can be seen as an attendant, female spirit, or animal which may visit you in dreams or appear if you are practicing Seder, trance working, or going on a spirit journey. People sometimes feel that their Folgia has run on ahead of them when traveling in a physical sense. Caution would be advised for the curious who wish to discover these beings. Their powers are well documented in the Icelandic sagas, telling you how they may bestow hamingja, or hamingja? I'm not sure, or luck upon those who they attend, even helping to shape a person's fate. If you displease them, they can leave you, or the benefits they bring could be reversed. There we go. That was the piece I was looking for that I think ties this all together. So, I'm curious what you guys think. Do you think this is actually accurate? Do you think I'm cooking something, or do you think I'm just on crack? And how do we feel about fox for fire, obviously, a water otter, I like how that sounds, water otter, the thunderbird for air, and of course the earth badger. That is the main things I'm wondering. If you guys in chat have any ideas, and I'll put this up in a YouTube short as well to try to garner some more ideas, because I really want to see what people think before the bell tolls and we get to see, is this actually what I think it is, or is this just me being silly and digging way too deep? I'm not a history major, I'm not an expert in mythology, I'm just a big fan of Loxton and Noggin, and that's about it. And I love the Elementalists, so here we go. That's what's brought me here. Also, just a side note, what the fuck is this? I think this is indicating that the card deck that we got is Engineer. Because we see all these coins, and that could imply Gambler, and it has to be Engineer because it has the rifle. I'm not sure. That's a weird little side note I've been stuck on for a while. There's like a Skrit digging for gold behind him. I don't know. Lots of silly stuff. But with that, this has been a really short, abrupt stream because I really want to edit this together and get it posted before ArenaNet reveals whether or not I'm right or not. And I don't know when they're going to do that. It could be tomorrow, it could be next week, could be any time. So I'm in a little bit of a rush here, which is why I grabbed all my notes here and I just went live instead of making a video out of it. But appreciate you guys for coming along, staying, checking things out. If you want to watch more of my content, of course, go ahead and subscribe. I'm very much trying to reach 1,000 subs, very slowly, but it's a fun process. And with that, I am going to take my leave and get to editing things. So I thank you kindly for watching, and I'll see you guys later. I'll just swap things to the starting soon screen for now, because I still don't have an ending card because I'm lazy. But see you guys around, and here you go.